Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Aifa Bibara Alcor, a Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in English. So today I'm going to have my video report about my topic, cultural literacy and game literacy. So we have here the objectives of my report today. So first, to define cultural and game literacy. Second, to share benefits of game literacy and of being culturally literate. Third, to point out challenges in cultural and game literacy. And fourth, to develop environment that fosters cultural and game literacy. Answering the question, what is cultural literacy? Cultural literacy would refer to or being able to understand the traditions, regular activities, and history of a group of people from a given culture. This means to say that through cultural literacy as a student, you are able to engage yourself with those traditions of others, you are able to join their activities, and you are able to know the diverse history in cultural spaces like museums, galleries, and performances. Because, of course, even if you don't have a physical contact with those culture, but by studying it, you won't be ignorant at the same time be egocentric, thinking your culture way better than others. Next, who is this person in my slide? Does he have something to do with my report? Of course, yes. The old man in the picture is Eric Donald Hirsch Jr. So, Hirsch is an American educator, literary critic, and theorist of education. He coined the term cultural literacy in 1987. He used the term cultural literacy to imply that just as literate people are fluent in reading and writing, culturally literate people should be fluent in cultural heritages, histories, literature, arts, politics, and the like. This means that before you consider yourself a culturally literate person, first you have to know deeper your culture. Because how can you appreciate other culture if you aren't able to understand your culture first? According to Flavel, Takra, and Hoffman 2013, being culturally literate will help you understand, relate, and interact with people from diverse backgrounds that may be different from your own. To give you an example, for instance, you're a Muslim and you have a Christian friend, and then your Christian friends know that you are forbidden to eat pork, but she tricked you and give you pizza, and when you ask her if the pizza don't contain pork, and she justify her lies saying, "No, there's no pork on it, just eat it." And then, here it comes, the another day, you eat with your friend again, and alhamdulillah, someone saw you and got shocked why you're eating pizza which contains pork. And that person approaches you and told you about what the pizza is made of. So, is there sensitivity there? Of course, there is no cultural sensitivity there. Though your Christian friend have a cultural awareness that pork in Islam is forbidden, perhaps learning and respecting different cultures will open your mind to different ways of life. Moving on, I want to share with you some of the benefits of being culturally literate. Being culturally literate positively affects society in many ways, such as it can reduce prejudice and inequality based on culture. It also puts increased value placed on diversity and differences. It can also increase participation rate in social and community practices like visiting museums, attending performances, and accessing community program as argued by Anning 2010. So, by participating in cultural activities such as visiting museum can help improve cultural literacy, as museums tend to pull in visitors with higher literacy level. Audience surveys show that even when the number of museums visitors increases, these visitors tend to belong to the most educated social groups. Next, we have here the challenges in cultural literacy. Philippines cultural literacy is a quiet challenge given that Philippine culture is a complex blend of many indigenous and colonial cultures and varies across the region. That's why in our senior high school, we have this subject contemporary or Philippine contemporary arts in the region. So this subject educate us about culture in every region in the Philippines for us not to laugh at the other culture identities. For example is, I am a Muslim and my friend used to compare the way he or she dressed and referred me as Baduy Manamit because perhaps my friend is not exposed to the way I dress, but for me, my outfit is okay. So, the point here is to understand that they are different from us, at the same time, we are different from them. So, according to De Leon 2011, Filipinos look at their culture and themselves through the Western lenses as the Doña Victorina syndrome, a kind of inferiority complex wherein anything and everything natively Filipino is considered as Filipinos themselves as being inferior and therefore a source of embarrassment and unease. So how is that so? So, most of us being Pinoy want to be white because for us, if your skin color is white, you're beautiful because you see Americans are mostly white. So we want to imitate them, not knowing for them we are beautiful in their eyes because they seldom see moreno and morena in their place, and this is the reason our being Doña Victorina syndrome comes out. Thinking I am not good enough because I am not white. In short, it is the construction of the negative self-images and notions of ourselves. Second, so it says that caught than thought, meaning it is get not just easily acquired because if it is taught to you a tendency to forget it, but self-learning or experiential much more that you can't forget it. But if that's the way, how can we teach culture if it is more understood when learned than teach? Third, we all know that in Philippines, there are so many groups of people. So why are we studying Bicolano, Ilocano, and Warais, but the groups from Hiligaynon, Tausug, Maranao are not being studied? So it's because they are minority. Then who should decide if we are going to study it or not? Fourth, so the outcome look of this is we are just studying dominant culture such as Bisaya, Muslim, Tagalog, and then the rest are left behind. And lastly, so how is the assessment? So how can we say that the student is learning? Are they learning when they know the basic, or they are learning when they are able to socialize and mingle with other people, like they are not outsider of that certain culture? Moving on to my second report, we have here the game literacy. So let's ponder what is game literacy. So game literacy is an approach to literacy based on a game design. as argued by Eric Zimmerman 2008 from the book The Video Game Theory, Reader 2, in the chapter 1 of the book entitled Game Literacy, Game Design as a Model for Literacy in the 21st Century. So, here, he argued that game literacy is an emerging set of skills and competencies, set of new ideas and practices that are going to be increasingly a part of what it means to be literate in the coming century. So, to sum up the argument of Zimmerman, he believes that game design is a paradigm for understanding what literacy needs are and how they might be addressed. So he sees three main concepts as key components of this new literacy as follows: systems, play, and design. As a key component of gaming literacy, systems can be considered a paradigm for literacy in the coming century, as it requires understanding it on several levels, from the fixed foundational structure of the system to its emergent, unpredictable patterns and structure of the system of behavior. Thereby leads to the kinds of improvisational problem-solving skills that will be critical for creative learning. So, games are systems because at some level, they are mathematical systems of rules. But if games were just math, we would never have World of Warcraft by Blizzard in 2004. So, play is the human effect of rules set into motion in its many forms, transcending the systems from which it emerges. So why is play an important paradigm for literacy in this century? So the answer is that systems are important, but if we limit literacy to structural systematic literacy, then we are missing part of the equation. So when we move from systems to play, we shift focus from the game to players, from structure of rules to structure of human interaction. And lastly, we have the third component of a game literacy. We have the design. Design is the process by which a designer creates a context to be encountered by a participant from which meaning emerges. Moving on, we have here the benefits of game literacy. Some educators and researchers still argue that game-based learning can be detrimental to educational experience. However, studies continue to show that games can positively impact things like students' math and language learning in many ways. The following are some of the benefits we can get in a game-based learning. First, helps problem solving. Game-based learning can help students solve problems by fostering skills like understanding caution, logic, and decision making they can use in life outside of school. Second, it encourages critical thinking. Research has shown that game-based learning can improve students' critical thinking skills, including the development of independent beliefs prior to engaging in collaborative discourse. And third, it increases student engagement and motivation. A 2019 research found that when teachers incorporate digital game-based learning elements such as feedback, choice, and collaboration into their instructional design, students become more engaged and motivated to learn. And fourth, it introduces situational learning. Learning doesn't occur only in our heads. In fact, it's a fundamentally social process. Proposed in 1991 by Jean Love, anthropologist, and Eileen Winger, a computer scientist, situated learning helps students understand new concepts in the context of their social relationship. Next, while more and more institutions, instructors, and students are beginning to see the validity of game-based learning, there remains many challenges to overcome before this type of learning can become widespread. The first problem is that combining engaging game design with learning objectives and curriculum. In order to make game-based learning educational and useful in the classroom, the game must meet certain learning outcomes. Next, creating a gaming atmosphere that is adapted to all the learners' ability. Undoubtedly, in today's classroom, most students will be digital natives born in the era of internet, cell phones, and easily accessible computers. But this does not apply to all learners, nor does it reflect the individual ability and gaming knowledge of the learners. Adapting a game to respond to this difference is difficult. And third, overcoming the cultural barrier with faculty and parents. Marketing the idea of game-based learning to faculty and especially to parents is not an easy sell. Game-based learning is still stereotyped as gaming, or as some parents view it as wasting one's time. The stigma associated with games and play is difficult to overcome in an educational setting where accountability and results are necessary and required. Fourth, the cost associated with developing a learning game. Games require time, knowledge, and money to take shape. Some colleges and universities will not have the resources or time available to them to make educational games. The cost of funding a game coupled with the hardware and software needed to create it can become too costly for institutions to manage. And lastly, game development requires knowledge and certain proficiencies. Creating a game and playing one or two vastly different tasks, the knowledge and abilities needed to create a game that will meet the needs of various learners, engage the students, respond to the curriculum, be ready quickly, and be cost-effective are vast and difficult to come by EPER 2012. Next one, we have here the environment that fosters cultural literacy. So, the most fundamental approach is to base teaching models on the idea of co-constructing knowledge and developing collaborative classrooms. The concept of co-constructing knowledge is simple. Teachers stop playing the traditional role of teaching as orator or the sole director of knowledge and learning. Instead, they focus on student-led learning, which values student input regarding how and what they would like to learn. In the new model, teachers are facilitators, providing learning tools and offering instruction and suggestion as students need it. Taking ownership of their learning helps students build motivation. Moreover, students grow comfortable with sharing their insights and needs with fellow students, which fosters cultural understanding through national group process-based learning. Of course, teachers have to figure out how to meet achievement standards within this model. But with a creative, interactive approach, teachers and students together can address these standards without sacrificing cultural literacy. On the other hand, we have here the environment on how to foster game literacy. So, people of all ages can play literacy games. These activities can be a lot of fun. They can be Scrabble, alphabet scavenger hunt, food for thought, penny storytelling, and a lot more of activities that makes the learning environment more comfortable, reducing tension and help build positive relationship between the teacher and the learner.